Welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining the webinar today, our very first webinar during Australian hours. So thank you all for attending. Today, we're going to be covering what's new with FormAssembly. So this will include FormAssembly's new interface infrastructure AI agent called FormAssembly Atlas, as well as the file to web or file to form feature, and then our document generation and multiple signatures. And then we'll also have Mia Pacey going over some advanced Salesforce integrations and very powerful ways to interact your forms with Salesforce. And then we'll go into Q&A, and that will be all for today. So we'll go ahead and continue on. Like I mentioned, I'm Ryan Davidson. I've been at FormAssembly for 4 years, and I've been looking after the ANZ region, so all of our partners and customers in the region for the last 2 years. And with me today is Mia Pacey, who's a digital platform lead, Salesforce user group leader, Salesforce Golden Hoodie recipient, podcast host, and YouTube channel host as well. So check those out. Mia, do you want to say hello to everyone?
Thank you, everyone, for joining. I'm very excited that we have something in the ANZ hours. So thank you for all coming. Looking forward to talking to you about FormAssembly. We use it every day, so hopefully I can spread some knowledge so far.
Right, sounds good. Well, like I was mentioning, today's agenda is going to be looking at the FormAssembly Atlas infrastructure and interface, as well as the FAI or FI AI assistant. Then we'll go into the file to form feature, doc gen and multiple signatures. Then we'll take a look at a use case that Mia uses quite often, and then we'll go into Q&A. So for those of you who aren't aware of what FormAssembly is, just to give you a quick overview, we are a form building and workflow building tool that is meant to be a blank canvas for you to build any sort of data collection point or data collection process that you may need, and then send those data points off to various places like Salesforce, HubSpot, the Microsoft Suite, wherever it may be. And it's meant to be so easy that anyone can use it. So it is no code to low code, depending on the things that you may want to do. But as far as technical skill goes, it's very, very low as far as like needing to use the platform itself. So with that, I'll go ahead and share my screen, and we'll take a look at the new Atlas infrastructure and interface. So as some of you may know who do use FormAssembly or have worked with FormAssembly in the past, when you first log in, you come to a page that shows you all of the things you have. And so in the Atlas infrastructure, we have our workflow list. So Atlas is meant to be workflow first. In the past, it was a lot of being form first, as now we have workflow first, as it's an easier way to sort of map out and track what every form does and where it integrates and what steps take place once someone has submitted the form, as well as it makes it really easy to integrate with multiple things all at once and know where the data is going and when it's going there. Along with that, to access the forms and get used to those sort of things, we go down to our workflow assets, and we have forms, themes, and our data sets, so we can still manage our forms and our themes in that sort of form tab, but where they belong and where they live will be in these workflows. Just to clarify, this is different from the current FormAssembly version that you may be using, and this is sort of what's going to be coming with new FormAssembly instances. So just to give you a look at that, what I mean by workflow is when you build these things out, they are not just a singular form that may have some tabs on the side. You can build out larger processes. So we can take a look at another really quick, like our doc gen and multiple signature, where you can have your form and then you get to set up all the different things that take place after it, like showing the thank you message, sending out emails, having the documents there. We can open this add a step up really quick and look at, forms, conditional logic, emails, approvals, going to other pathways, connectors like, Salesforce, HubSpot, SharePoint, Excel, Stripe, whatever it may be, it's probably in there. Then we have things like our document e-signature that we'll take a look at a bit later. So we'll back out of this really quick and we'll take a look at where the admin dashboard and all of those sort of things exist in the same place as they would have if were on the old version of FormAssembly, where we have our account authorizations, admin dashboard, all of those good things still live in the same place. If you're new to FormAssembly, then they live up at the top right-hand corner where your username is. So we'll get into our AI assistant. So you have these blue little stars up in the corner, and this is going to engage Phi, the AI agent. And so we can ask it a variety of different questions, whether it's making forms, asking for support, creating support tickets with our support team, asking for guidance, sales related questions, whatever it is, the Phi is here for you to help out and make sure you get what you need in a timely manner. So we're going to create a form today. As this is a webinar, we'll stick with the theme. We'll go ahead and enter in, make a registration for my webinar that saves the attendees list in Salesforce. And maybe we'll add on something as contacts. And we'll hit send. As you can see now, the Phi is doing its work. It's digesting what I had prompted it to, and now it's going to start building out that form live in front of us. So we've got our fields coming up. We have the title. All of those sort of things are populating in and building the form while I'm sitting here, hands off of the keyboard. So now it's letting us know we need to hit save on this. And so we'll hit save. Now that we've hit our save, let's ask it another prompt. Let's say create contacts in Salesforce. So now the form is built, we're going to put that into a workflow. So it's doing that for us. As you can see, we've gone from the form, flipped it into the workflow. Now it's going to ask us to choose the Salesforce org we'd like to use. So I'll go ahead and use my dev account. And then so I'll say complete. Now let's watch it work its magic and start putting in the form and the Salesforce connectors all in front of us. So it's found the form. And one thing that's really nice about this too is it does explain to you each step of the way and what's taking place. So it's saying that, it found the form 232. That's the one that we just created. So it's going to use that as the first starting block of this workflow. So now we have the form. Now we're going to put in the Salesforce connector, and it's going to look up and go to the contacts record and start mapping the fields for us. All right. So now we have our thank you message at the end as well, plus our Salesforce connector have been added in. And so I'm going to go ahead and hit save just so we can see that we have it there. Then I'll go to the connector itself, go to the configuration, and we can see that all of those fields have been mapped for us. If we need to make adjustments, of course, we can come in here and change that as needed. But for the time being, all of that looks good to me. So we'll go ahead and hit save. And now this workflow is ready to be used and start collecting responses. So that's just a quick look at, the new Atlas infrastructure, the workflow first, and then the Phi AI agent. You can ask it other things as well. So we could do something like create a support ticket with our support team. So we'll go ahead and do that. And so we'll say create a ticket this time. All right, so it's created us a support ticket, which now our support team will have to follow up with me, which is a bit unnecessary, but that's all right. I can just let them know not to follow up with that one. But if you do need to create support tickets, you can through the AI assistant as well. So it's not just meant for building forms and helping you with the configuration itself. It can bring in our support team to help you out as well. So we'll go ahead. I see there is a question, so we can answer that now since it is related while we're here. So how does the data go from the form into Salesforce? So the way that works is that in the connector, we have a space for each field. So the source, which is FormAssembly, meaning the form itself. And then we have that field for first name, which we saw was created earlier. And then you select the destination, Salesforce. So we're going to the contact record up here, and then it's going to map that to the first name in Salesforce. These don't have to be exact matches. Any field on the form can go into any field in Salesforce. However, it's always best to make sure you know which fields are going where, so you're not sending data points into incorrect spots or getting answers that don't look right on records. So we'll go ahead and close that out. And now we're going to move into the file to form feature. So we'll go to our workflow assets. We'll go to forms, and then we will go to new form. And so we're going to have a few different options here. Cloning a form, which is making a copy blank, starting from scratch, and then file to web form. And so this is using, maybe a screenshot or a PDF or a Word doc or Excel or whatever it may be as your starting place to build the form. So I'll go ahead and select a file. Let's go to a screenshot here. So maybe we'll use the second. We'll say create form. So now it's going to digest that file and then create a new form for us. So let's see what we have generating here. As you can see, we've put together a new registration form, and it has a few different questions in there as well as some text. And if we need to go ahead and edit that or add more things to it, we can. But we got the bulk of what we need to do done by just uploading the form or the file itself. All right. Now from here, we're going to move on to the workflow steps of the DocGen and multi-signature workflow. And so like we saw earlier when I was breaking down the different step types in a workflow, one of them is document generation. So we can go to step properties, go to configure. So essentially what takes place is you can use a Word doc or a slide or something like that and upload it into FormAssembly, and then tell FormAssembly which fields you'd like to put where on the doc. So first name from the form is going to go to first name on the doc. And so we're going to be generating a document that isn't, an exact copy of the form. It's something else. It's just collecting those data points from the form and then putting them onto the document. And then we're going to actually sign it twice in this case. So we'll go ahead and do that. And then once it's been completed, we'll send that over to Salesforce. So we'll go ahead and close that out. We'll hit share and we'll take a look at that. So now we have this FormAssembly form. I'll put in my data points for now. Just put a plus in there so that we can put both going to myself. And we will hit submit on that. And so now we're going to engage our signature process. So I will be getting an email notification that should say I've been requested to sign. So I'll go ahead and move that over here. You can say review document. So I'll go ahead and click on that. Then we'll go ahead and hit next, finish. So now the first signer has done their job, and now we're going to send out the second signature request. So let's go to email. Got that next document review. Now we can see the already partially signed version of that. We'll go ahead and sign that as well. Next, finish. Now it has been submitted, so we can take a look over into Salesforce. We can see my Ryan Davidson contact that was just put through. And then we have our signed document. There it is. And as far as the document generation and multiple signatures go, that was everything I was looking to show there. So I'll go ahead and pass it off to Mia.
Thanks, Ryan. Let's go share screen. Okay, we're all sharing screen. Excellent. Okay, so in FormAssembly, we use this pretty much day to day as our collection tool for data external to Salesforce, and we bring it back into Salesforce through these forms. A few things that I really like about FormAssembly is purely the fact that you can control what comes in so well and actually manipulate the data before it gets to Salesforce, so you can have it as clean data, doing everything you want to do and in creating all the records you want systematically. So here we're going to look at the new Atlas form of FormAssembly using their workflow process. It's pretty much just putting three things together onto a workflow builder, one of them being our form. So this is our workflow builder here. This is our job application, which is an example of what we do in our system day to day. So from the back end, we have a position object. In our position object, we have various positions. They sit in departments for sharing and visibility. We can open and close them or have them in draft. We've also got automated systems that once the close date passes, it automatically turns the status to closed. And the value of having these positions have the ability to update their own is because of the form. So I'm going to show you quickly just an example I've pulled up inside the new FormAssembly. Doesn't look like super flash, but it'll do the job. And what we see here is this position and eligibility box. You can see that the position applying for has a microscope. So on the microscope, if I click into it, it's pulling back records from Salesforce. And once I click on Content Writer, for example, it's pulling in the job description that is listed on that job, which department it falls under, and the record ID. So these things are visible here, but that's just for demo purposes. If I click this, I've configured it to show you what it looks like if you're actually a person coming in to do the form. So all they would need to do is select the job description, the position name, and then they'll see the fields that I've told it to pull through. They continue down, they can upload a file for, say, a resume. And then when they submit their application, it'll go and tie it to this position and their candidacy. So in FormAssembly, let's dive into that form. So back onto my workflow builder, into my job application form. How do we do that? So this position applying for field is actually one of my favorite features. It's called a dynamic pick list or drop down, one of the two. In here, we've gone Salesforce object lookup as basic. I'm telling it which Salesforce object to pull from its list. And I'm saying return the field's position name, record ID, job description, and department, because I'm going to put it somewhere on my form. But I'm going to say only do the positions that meet this requirement. So status equals open. So that means that in our Salesforce logic, once the close date passes and the status turns to close automatically, it'll actually take this position off the form automatically without any admin processes needed. I'm also saying in that list, sort it by position name. So if you go next in this selection criteria, you do get to then see which fields are coming through and map it to a field on your form. So here I'm saying map the record ID to position, job description, and department, so on. The reason I'm pulling department, you might say, is a feature down here. So if you remember on our form, we only saw one upload. We've actually been able to say, if they're applying for a job in the department of X, which for this example is HR, show this upload as well, because we need that extra license capability. And the way I did that was using the conditional formatting, which is just normal for FormAssembly. And I'm saying if the department field equals HR, then make this field visible. So the field here and our form, let's just test that theory of when things are in the open and potentially HR. So I'm going to head into my marketing coordinator, just change my status to open. So for instance, your users inside Salesforce don't have to access you or FormAssembly to make this new job available online. And we head back to our form, give it a quick refresh. And now when I click through into forms, you can see our marketing coordinator has shown up. I haven't had to resync anything, turn my connector back on or off again. Now I'm seeing marketing. I'm clicking down and now I can see this new Rego upload field has popped up. So it's really helpful. This job description field, we also mark it as not writable, I think the term is. So they can't edit it. It's not going back to Salesforce all anyway. So if we head back to our form, after they've filled in that particular form, what happens in FormAssembly? So we've got our form here. We walked through that one, but this one here is a connector called Salesforce. So to get it on there, I click this step, add Salesforce, and here you get to call it something different. So I've called this one the write back one. But when you say authorization, so how do things get into Salesforce? This is this part. So ultimately, you're adding this as a connected app through your production or your sandbox environment, and you're signing in using that, using your credentials. So then your user is linked as the connecting user. So that means that any profile permission sets that you have about fields connected to your user, FormAssembly will honor the same. So if you can't see the field, but you need to add it to a FormAssembly, then your permissions have to have that field as well. Best practice, obviously, in Salesforce land, we love to have integration users as the connected user. So that is a quick step to do after you've connected everything up. Change it over to an integration user. So head back to delete this one as an example. Head back to the one that I've nicely curated earlier. This is our Salesforce write back step. Our authorization is my dev org, and our configuration is where the fun starts. So you got your find candidate, which was a custom object I created in Salesforce for this purpose. The candidate name, I'm using a formula inside FormAssembly to pull together the first name and the last name and trim it so that there's no spaces at the end causing any issues. And then this one is actually a lookup. So I'm saying, does this candidate already happen inside Salesforce? And if they are already there, only update these two fields. But if not, then we need to run its dependent. So the dependent step is actually this one here. So I'm saying only run this one after finding candidate, because if they haven't found it, I want them to create it. So now we're saying create a candidate record using the same similar formula, adding these fields into Salesforce, and then returning a variable which I'm storing inside the FormAssembly workflow builder. So it's similar to Flow and any of the things, automations inside Salesforce Apex. You're saying when this was created, make sure you save the record ID because I want to use it later on. And then I can use it in actually different steps later on as well. But for this example, we're going to use it later on in a different connector field. So we create our candidate. We did ask for a resume, remember? So we're going to upload that file in Salesforce. The content version is file. You probably shouldn't be still using the classic version of documents and attachments. But if you are, that is still an option. As you can see, you can say attachments as well. Oh no, I ruined everything. No, I didn't. There it is. So then you map across all the fields that you want to connect to your content version. You can see here now I'm using that candidate variable. So using that candidate variable, I'm pushing it to what the content version needs to tell us what it's synced to. And then the next step is in Salesforce, the way that this is structured is that if someone has a position open, people apply to it via the object application. So our application is ultimately our joining object between our candidate and our position. So back into our connector, this application has to be linked to our candidate, which is a variable, and our position ID, which comes from our form, because remember we filled it in from that dynamic related list, and then give it an application name. So we did see, though, when I was pulling it through, the application name, and there's no one filled in anything about the questions. So these were like dynamic questions you can use on your form to retype things and give it a really long name. But here, let's just go and add that one really quickly. So we've got our candidate application. I'm going to add a new field from our form, which I'm going to say is additional comments. And which field do I want to put it into inside our application object? Let's say reason for applying. Oh, we already did that one. Imagine that's not there. Reason for applying. We'll just change it to question 1. Excellent. And then I'm going to hit save. And now that workflow is saved, all we have to do is refill in that form. And I'll show you what it then looks like inside FormAssembly. Oopsies. Where is my person I want to use? If anyone else appreciates the reference, extra points. And we're going to upload our resume or something similar from my demos. We've got to say, this is why I am applying. And submit our resume and our application. So I haven't curated a nice little thank you page, but ultimately we're just going to pop over into our applications, head into our My Related list, and who did we just add? Here we are, Ryan Howard. So I've got to do a little bit of work cleaning up these coming through with the form so we can make sure the clean data comes through. And we can see, oh no, our job description didn't come through. In theory, that does come through and was working earlier. I obviously haven't sacrificed to the demo gods enough today. But this is super quick to get everything back into Salesforce. And if you're going to add a new field, the previous FormAssembly form was quite slow at pulling back new fields or new objects from Salesforce. But down here in the bottom right-hand corner of this new workflow operator is refresh lists. And it's super quick and pulls back new fields and new objects that you need to include inside your workflow very well. I really like this new feature from the workflow because it just does make everything a little bit quicker. So, but you ask, what does it look like? Let's have a look at what happens inside FormAssembly when you do that connector using that dynamic pick list. Similarly, you can see here when it goes through, you can see, oh, the job application form was 100% done. The write back connector was done as well. And if we look at the log, it's giving us a detailed look about what happens through each process. So we can see that write back was entered, so it started that process. It did not find a candidate, so it went on to the next one, which was creating a candidate, uploaded that resume, created the application, and then signed out. So it's really effective to get your form with lots of information and create multiple different objects inside of Salesforce using that feature that has that dynamic pick list value. So this one here was very helpful, and it's connected using your permissions and profiles, so you can make sure that everything is above board, kosher, nothing is leaked through it, because FormAssembly does have that really safe API connection, and then your ability to change that inside FormAssembly as well. So that is the main topics that I was covering today. Ryan, do you have anything that we could talk about or any more questions?
Yeah, I think it's probably a good time to head over to Q&A. We've got a few questions lined up, so I can take on those. Go ahead with the first question. We are FormAssembly customers. Is our interface going to be changing now that Atlas is out? So if you are a current customer and you've been using FormAssembly and you like how it is, then it is going to stay the same way. You are on what we call our classic infrastructure, so that's not going to be changed in any way. You're not going to be forced to use the new Atlas interface. If you want to change that, you could in the future. It's not available currently. So what you have now is what you'll have going forward for the foreseeable future until we do set up some sort of migration from Classic to Atlas. But for all new customers or new accounts, they will be on the Atlas infrastructure, which brings us to the second question. If I open up a trial to test something out, will it look like the Atlas infrastructure? Sorry, I read that incorrectly. Yes. So if you do go to the website to open up a trial to test out something new, or you wanted to, A/B test with the trial instead of your own instance, it would be on the Atlas infrastructure. So it would look different than your current account.
Which I found was like really helpful because it was it's like now a separate environment. It was good to just forcibly tell me how to use workflow because I was a little bit hesitant because I love the way that I've got it working. Everyone doesn't, some people like change, but when I was working through it with this trialogue for this presentation, it was really good to just play around with the new features and did give me that like push I needed to make sure I learned the workflow and didn't just go back to the classic because it is very cool.
Yeah, it is for sure. And, one thing too is for our classic customers or our current customers, I guess you could say, you will be getting the Fire AI agent added to your account. There isn't a specific date for that. However, it's planned for the coming months. So you will have access to that. It's not like that's something only for new customers. That will be available to you, and that will, make things a bit easier. But just one thing to be clear on is a large majority of all of our new features are coming through the workflow builder. And so when new things come out, like the document generation or the multi-signature processes, those are going to be available through there. So it's always good to get yourself familiar with that so that when new things come out, you already know where to go and how to use them. And for all of those Atlas, accounts and plans, those all come with the workflow builder, as that is the way FormAssembly is moving. So the better you are acquainted with workflow, the better you suit yourself for the future when we come out with new things to use. All right, let's take a look at the other questions. Oh, I think that was all of them. So, thank you all for attending today. Really appreciate it. Mia, thank you for joining me. And if you didn't answer, or if you didn't ask your question today, or you think of it at a later time, you can always email me directly at ryan.davidson@formassembly.com, and I'm happy to help out. I support all of our current customers, future customers, and partners in Australia and New Zealand. So you can always come to me for anything you might need.
And I will be releasing some videos about this workflow on my Pace Yourself YouTube channel. So if you're hesitant to giving it a go, head over there, and I've got some videos soon. When I'll spin up a new trialogue. Mine's got 6 days left.
All right. Well, y'all have a good rest of your day and happy form building.
Thanks, guys. Have a good day.